Let's say you're lucky enough to be in the market for a high-performance convertible sports car. Should you go for the new Mercedes-AMG SL55 or a Porsche 911 GTS Cabriolet? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. You might be thinking this is the most ridiculous time of year to be doing such a twin test, but no. You see, these cars have to work all year round. Yeah, we've thought this through. It's nothing to do with the fact that this car's only just become available in the UK. Nothing to do with that at all. Buy, sell, car, wow. Let's start this video by talking about the prices, and bizarrely the Porsche is actually the least expensive car. That's not something you say very often, but it is the case here. So the GTS Cabriolet starts from £125,000. That's for the rear wheel drive version. For the four wheel drive version, it's £131,000. The SL55 starts at £147,000. And it is just all-wheel drive, there's no two-wheel drive version. You can get a lesser SL43 model, but that has a 2-litre engine. And to be fair, you can get a lesser normal 911 Carrera Cabriolet as well. So we're not comparing those cars, just the ones we've got here now. If you're thinking about getting one of these cars, you're obviously going to have to sell your current car to raise the funds. And if you want to do that, the easy way, click on the pop-out banner up there, or follow the link in the description below to go to carwow. You can just upload some photos of your car, give a brief description, then dealers all across the country will bid on your car. You then pick the highest offer, they'll come to your house, take your car away. It is simple. If you want to do that at a later date, just simply Google "help me carwow" and we will help you sell your car. So the Mercedes is the most expensive, but does it look the most expensive? Well, it's certainly aggressive. It's all about that huge bonnet with the big bulges in it, that big AMG grille. It's got purpose. Wheel sizes start at 20s, rise to 21s is what this car has. You can get the roof in 3 different colours. You can have it in this black, there's a grey, and there's also a red. However, the least successful part for this car for me is this rear end. It just sort of like, it's kind of like designed it all aggressive, then at the back they're just going, oh yeah, and sort of given up. Though you do have quad tailpipes, though we've got surrounds there. The actual tailpipes themselves are inside and they're a little bit smaller. However, it's not just the AMG whose rear end is not its best side. Same too with the 911 Cabriolet. While the coupe's rear looks just spot on, for some reason the convertibles is just a bit too bulbous. Sort of like the car equivalent of a baboon on heat. Anyway, just like the AMG actually, you do have some fake exhaustery look. So while we've got twin pipes, still, there is a big surround with the small exhaust. Moving down the side, alloy wheels, you've got 21 inches at the back, 20s at the front. Roof colours, you can get 4 different ones, unlike the 3 on the AMG. So there's this red, there's a black one, there's a blue one, and a brown one. Moving to the front, this is where you see a clear difference between the two cars, because the Porsche engine is in the back rather than under the bonnet. The bonnet slopes nice and low for that classic 911 look. I think with the roof up, I prefer the look of the 911, but will that be the same with the roof down? To find out, let's put the roof down on the Porsche, but let's at the same time do it on the SL as well, which is what I'm sat in, and we'll see how long they take, how elegant their mechanisms are, and what they look like in proper converted state. So let's do it. I'm going to honk the horn so we can do it synchronized, both the SL and the Porsche. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Gonna wait for my little flaps to go down. Flaps down. Windows have gone up, but I prefer windows fully down so you get to see the actual design and lines of the car. There we go. Roof fully down in this. They definitely both look better with their roofs down, but once again, I'm going to give it to the Porsche. Maybe the AMG can pull it back for the interior design, because it is pretty cool. I really like the look of the dash with these like jet style air vents, really nice. Quality is good as well. Got carbon fibre here, nice sporty chunky steering wheel, and you've got the ability to control your different driving modes there and then switch through different functions as well. That's really nice. Infotainment system's brilliant, very easy to get to, like it's so close to your hand, and it's easy to use. Do you know what, even angles slightly when you have the roof up or down just to reduce glare. The actual dials are very easy to read, plus you can configure them, go for lots of different designs. The paddle shifters, nice big thick pieces of metal, though they're a bit cold on my fingers today. Yeah, I like this interior. It looks good, feels expensive, and it's sporty. Can the Porsches match it though? And cut to the chase, I prefer the interior of this 911. It's just a bit more sporty, it's simpler as well. Build quality, it's even better than the Mercedes, I think. And the steering wheel feels great. You don't quite have the functionality on the steering wheel that you do with the Mercedes, but you can still switch through your drive modes using that toggle wheel there. I also prefer the dials. Yeah, you don't have the choice. You know, you can change different views and stuff, but once again, simpler and sportier. It's not all perfect though. The steering wheel actually blocks these two outer dials, and I prefer the infotainment system in the Mercedes. I just find it easier to use. And that brings on to which of these is the most practical, or should that be which of these two convertible sports cars is the least impractical? The load area on the 911 is under the bonnet. We have a front boot, a fruit, and it has a capacity of 132 litres, which is not a lot, but it's a useful square shape and it's quite deep. So you'll be surprised what you can actually carry in there. Now the boot capacity of the SL is 213 litres, which is quite a bit larger. It's not quite so easy to load though, because the opening isn't so big, but ultimately you do have more space. Look, I can shove that all the way back there, and I've got all this extra space as well. So when it comes to carrying luggage, the SL is the better car. But what about people? Both these cars are 2+2 seaters, so they have some occasional rear seats or seats that are suitable for children. I've got this seat in my ideal driving position, and look, oh, this is not good at all. There's hardly any room for my feet. My knees are like pressed up against the seat backs and I'm having to work my way around them. The seat backs here in the rear, they're vertical. They're just like straight up. This is like torture. It's not good. Surely the Porsche can't be as bad as this. Unfortunately it is. I can't even get my legs akimbo in this thing. Let's try it that way. No. I could probably do it like that, get the seat belt around me somehow. Oh, this is really painful. This is even worse. Oh gosh. Now imagine you've got a small baby, you need to carry that as well. What you can do is fit a rear facing child seat on the front passenger seats. There's ISOFIX in the back of both the cars, but that's useless because it renders the front seat pointless. So you put the baby seat on the front seat of each of the cars, and then there is enough room to push the seats forward so that you can fit an adult just about behind the passenger seat in both cars, though there is a little bit more room then in the Porsche for some reason, whereas it's the other way around when you're sitting behind a driver. This is awful. Tell you what's not awful though, the engines in these cars. So let's start with the Porsche. It's got a 3-litre twin turbo flat six that puts out 480 horsepower and 570 newton meters of torque. It drives the rear wheels in this particular car by an 8-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox. The Mercedes has a 4-litre twin turbo V8 that puts out 476 horsepower, so 4 horsepower less than the smaller engine Porsche, but it's got more torque, 700 newton meters. It drives all 4 wheels via a 9-speed automatic gearbox. Now let's compare how these cars sound. So start up the Porsche and give it some revs. You're in sports mode, that's right, yeah, heard the change in tone there. Now rev it. Soft limiter, soft limiter. Oh, okay, cut it, cut it, cut it. Surely the Mercedes will sound better. Go on, start at the Mercedes. There we go. Oh, go on. Oh, yes. It's got a soft limiter again, and it's not great when you rev it up, but when you lift off, you get those nice pops and bangs and crackles. Do it again. Oh, and again. This sounds the best when you're revving it while stationary, but there's another important test when driving convertible sports cars in these conditions. Before I take these cars for a drive, there is one last thing that you need to check with a convertible sports car, and that's that they've got a good enough heating system to keep you warm so that you can drive it with the roof down in conditions like this. I've got the heated seat on in the Porsche, it's been warming up for some time, and I've got to say my bottom and lower back is nice and toasty. How about the fan though? I've got it on high and I've got it blasting at the main central vent and at my feet. That's where you need it when you're driving with the roof down. Let's go full speed. Come on, full speed ahead. It's not that intense, the blast out the central vents. Let's turn off the foot vents and that should speed things up a bit. Come on, here we go. Yeah, that's better. But now my feet aren't getting warmed. Can the Mercedes do better? That's better airflow than I was getting in the Porsche when it was divided between the central vents and the footwell. Let's turn off the footwell now and see what it's like without that engaged. Doesn't really make a difference. That's good that you get the same amount of airflow even when you're sending some to the footwell. I like that. As for the heated seat, it doesn't feel quite as warm as the Porsches. Normally Mercedes heated seats are so hot you can feel your sperms dying. There is one thing this does have that the Porsche doesn't though, and if I press this button here, I now have hot air being blown out through this vent here behind my neck, just in the headrest. Well, I'm not feeling it so much with this big stupid puffy coat, but overall I think the heating in this car for driving with the roof down in winter is slightly better. So I've jumped into the SL first, and the previous generation car was very much a Grand Tourer, big, heavy, a bit soft and squidgy. Great performance, but not the finest handling thing. This though, this is built by AMG, and it's much closer to the sports car end of things. In fact, it does feel like a proper sports car. Now I've got the car set up in individual settings, so I've chosen to have the engine in maximum attack. I've got the gearbox in manual. I've got the suspension in soft though. You can actually make it firmer as you go through the different settings, but soft is still quite firm, not comfy, but it's great for UK roads because it helps the car just deal with the bumps a bit better. Another thing you got on this car is rear wheel steering, and that really helps when you turn it into a corner. It just seems to get the whole car rotating nice and quickly, and it makes you forget that it actually weighs almost 2 tons, this thing. It feels a lot more agile than that weight would suggest. The steering, at first, it doesn't seem to do all that much. It's not like super responsive in the same way that Ferrari steering is over responsive. It's quite predictable, quite relaxed, until you start dialing in lock, then it really is quite responsive. The 4-wheel drive system does a good job as you're coming out of a corner to put the power down. And I'll tell you what's also good, the engine is so responsive. So it has electrical turbochargers which spin up the turbos, so there's hardly any lag. I mean, it's just on boost, on boost, on boost. Yeah. It drives really well. The only thing I noticed was that when I'm driving on the motorway with the roof up, there seemed to be quite a lot of wind whistle from around here. I kept thinking that the rear window was open, but it wasn't. I had to keep checking, and that's a little bit annoying. The old car with the folding metal roof just seemed a little bit quieter when you're driving with it up at speed. Now, if you want to watch my full in-depth video review of the Mercedes SL55, click on the pop-out banner up there or follow the link in the description below. Surely the SL hasn't just out-sports carred Porsche 911, has it? We're going to find out now. I've jumped into the Porsche. The sun has pretty much gone down, such is the short winter days in the United Kingdom, but this is how it is. I still drive with the roof down in the dark. I've got a convertible. Now, the first thing I notice is that while the AMG feels like a big, brutal, kind of bubbly thing, this is much more considered, more precise, and definitely more nimble. It doesn't seem to have the traction out of the bends in this slippery conditions because this is the rear-wheel drive version, but still, it's not bad, you know. Because you've got all that weight over the rear axle, it pushes those tyres into the ground so they can do all that they can. And the throttle response on this car, yeah, it might not have the electric turbos of the AMG, but it's still very responsive. And while it doesn't feel instantly as quick or as powerful as the AMG, when you rev it out, it feels faster. It really does feel faster. I'll tell you what's also faster, the gear changes. So in manual mode in that AMG, it's fast. That 9-speed's really, really good at changing gears, but this 8-speed dual clutch auto in the Porsche, it's quicker still. Another thing that's quicker and more responsive is the steering in this. Obviously no weight in the nose because the engine's at the back, so it's just responsive to your initial turn-in. It just feels a little bit more agile, a little bit more edgy, a little bit more sporty, because this car's also got rear axle steering, and it does the same thing as in the AMG, helps the car rotate into bends as well as make it more manoeuvrable when you're doing low speed U-turns and stuff like that. Once again, I've got everything in the sportiest setting apart from the suspension, which is in its comfiest setting, which is perfect for UK roads. This does just feel like a slightly stiffer car overall though. Oh, I love V8s, but I think I love flat sixes even more. Just that Porsche bark, might be a bit of a Porsche fanboy. In fact, if you want to see my latest review of the new 911 GT3 RS, which is my favourite car of the moment, click on the pop-out bar up there for the link in the description below. And that brings me on to my final verdict. Which of these is the best convertible sports car? You know what, in isolation, I really like the SL55, but Driving them back to back, it's quite an easy decision really. I'd take the Porsche. They would have it with 4-wheel drive with a convertible. If I'd have in a coupe, I'd have 2-wheel drive. Anyway, that's enough of that. The Porsche wins this test. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you did, give it a like. Let me know if you agree with my verdict in the comments below. Click on those windows there for some more videos. And on that box there, to go to Carwow to sell your car, you just upload some photos, give a brief description, then dealers all over the country will bid on your car. It's dead easy. Thanks for watching.